What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday night. Hope you guys are all having a very, very good day, and hope you guys cash some tickets tonight. This is the pre-scout. We are here live every single weeknight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. We're looking over the board for the next day, and well, if there's a small slate the next day, we're going to either have a guest or we're going to find something interesting to talk about for the time being. And as promised on yesterday's show, on today's show, we're going to be looking over some of the advanced metrics so far this season, looking at some of the goaltender numbers and looking at some of the team numbers and how they've done so far. We'll talk on the couple games for tomorrow's slate, and that will be it for the show. As for tonight, we did not hit the Maple Leafs to get the job done. That's for sure. Yeah, we did not hit the Maple Leafs. That's for sure. We did not hit the first period over in the Florida and Boston game. We did hit the Boston parlay, or the Boston-Florida parlay with Brad Marchand to get a point and Lindell to get a point. That took about a minute and a half to get that done. So that was really nice to get that. We also gave out our first goal-scoring pick of the season so far with Connor McDavid. I know it was only plus 135, but it was nice to catch that one. So happy to have that one. Leafs were hungover. Yeah, well, hopefully the Leafs weren't drinking too much last night, but at the end of the day, they did not look good. And you know what? It's a shame on me because I'm the one that's always making fun of that team and saying they don't play with any pride. And then I go ahead and take them. So the thing is with the Maple Leafs is that you usually think they're going to show up after flat spots, and their goalie called them out, and you still don't really see much out of them there. So that was definitely a bit disappointing to see. No doubt about it, guys. From that, the Washington Capitals, the lone team that just dominated from start to finish, they got the job done. One thing we talked about on last night's show, when a number seems fishy, it's probably fishy for a reason. Well, that Pittsburgh Penguins line was kind of weird. We saw the Vancouver Canucks open around minus 120. Overnight, that number was changing more and more and more. Ended up going off as a pick'em, but there was some love on Pittsburgh, and obviously the travel spot for Vancouver, the momentum going on for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're playing really well. Jersey Tugging Sports. Yes, I have seen you say that a couple times. Andrew Mangiapane on the Oilers did not get a point. You were very right about that. That's for sure. Look, guys, it's a 3-3 graded night. We don't hit the 4% play. Every night's not going to be great. Every night's not going to be unbelievable. The goal here this season, which has been really nice, is that you want the bad nights to just not really be that bad. You know, that to avoid any terrible nights, the bad nights to be mediocre and the good nights to be great. And so far, that's been the case. So far, we've been able to do that. So super excited about that. And yeah, today, 3-3. The one positive thing here, guys, is the props are really coming along. We're on a good prop run right now. 2-1 with the props today, I believe. So that's really nice to see. And we'll keep on moving. Shout out to Carmine with the bankroll play. Easy winner for him with the Capitals. Brett, appreciate that, man. It was time. It was definitely time. So I needed that. Hope you're well. Was looking forward to the show all day. Man, I appreciate you, Brett. Let me know anything you wanted to be discussed on this show. Also, shout out to Timothy. Mo showed up tonight with Pittsburgh. Yeah, exactly. Pittsburgh had the momentum, and it worked out well for them. So at least the momentum cashed well for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. So that went well for them. Ottawa wins in overtime, Edmonton wins in overtime, but still wasn't a great performance by them. The Islanders and Matthew Schaefer, I'll tell you, Matthew Schaefer, don't look now. He's not just doing well as a rookie. He's doing well as a defenseman in this league as far as his points on the season. So don't just look at him for a Calder trophy right now. This guy's looking pretty good compared to all the other defensemen in the league. So you got to love that. You got to love that. Brian, 100%. We are 100%. Not really in a big way, but, the big play lost tonight with the Leafs. So we want to bounce back. Not too happy about losing a pick on the Leafs like that, especially with the way they came out, playing their former coach, motivated after a tough loss. and they didn't get the job done. But Brian, as you mentioned, we are off a loss there. Under 6.5, Sharks Isles. Yeah, I hate to see that. Hate to see that. Got on that last second, and well, it went crazy. It went crazy. So, good evening, Rich. What's up, Rich? Good to see you as always. Perlo says I had Jersey. You know, Perlo, you have been someone that has not liked the Leafs all year long, and you've stuck with it, and I respect it because I've been talking poorly about the Maple Leafs, but at the end of the day, I always try and pick situations that I think teams might show up, and I definitely thought they were going to show up, and they definitely didn't do that in that one. So that one's tough to see. For those of you guys with me right now, there's one game that hasn't gotten started yet, and that's Colorado-Utah. The one angle that we always say is that, you know, if a teams play each other a couple times in a short period of time, first game goes under, we like to look towards the over. First game goes over, like to look towards the over or the under. So Leg Show Magazine says lean under in the game about to start. We're on opposite ends of that one, so we'll see what happens. But I think Utah can score, but I also think we're going to see Colorado contribute as well. I think it could be a messy game, but we'll have to see about that one. He's out there like Rod Niedermeyer. I think I butchered his name. That kid from the Islanders. Yeah, Schaefer. Unbelievable. Looking really, really good. So, guys, there's only 3 games tomorrow with Minnesota, New Jersey, Detroit, Buffalo, and then my Canadians go out west, and they're taking on the Calgary Flames. So with that, I just wanted to spend some time looking over some numbers really quick. And we'll look over some numbers really quick. We'll talk about the games for tomorrow a little bit, and then that will be it for today's show. But let's look over some of these numbers. And guys, this is moneypuck.com, which I really enjoy using. And, you know, it's really going to help us figure out which goaltenders are saving their teams, which goaltenders are letting down their teams. And it's just one of the websites that I really like to use for all of my information. And just not as much for banking on, you know, this is the 100% reason I'm going to take a bet, but it helps you make your decisions. And it can also help you decide if a team is overachieving, if a team is underachieving, if a team is relying on goaltending, and things like that. So we'll start with the expected goals against. Now, this one is one of my favorites to look at because, number one, you can tell which goaltender is playing extremely well at a high level. So maybe you can catch a goalie during a hot streak, but sometimes you find them in a certain matchup where you can really fade them because you realize, you know what, this team has been constantly defensively letting down their goaltender, that eventually things are going to catch up to them. So you look at Alex Lyon right here for the Buffalo Sabres. And who would have thought that Alex Lyon with the Buffalo Sabres, you know, leading the league in expected goals against when he's out there. I mean, this Buffalo Sabres defense has just been horrible, absolutely horrible. You know, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that he's leading the league in this category because he's played so many games for the Buffalo Sabres and their defense has not been good. But 6 games played for Alex Lyon, number one in that category. Spencer Knight is right up there. Connor Hellebuck, UC Saros, and Igor Shesterkin. You always see Hellebuck there. And it's funny because, you know, I said for so many years that the Jets rely on Hellebuck, right? That the Predators rely on Saros. But that's just how it is for those teams. They know they have a good goaltender. They know that they have a good goalie. And you know, you're talking to a guy that watched Carey Price and the Montreal Canadiens for so long. I am very, very well aware that the Montreal Canadiens would not have done much for a very long time if it wasn't for Carey Price holding it down. So Shesterkin, Demko, Philip Gustafson, Jeremy Swayman, Jake Ottinger, and Scott Wedgwood right there. So interesting enough, Scott Wedgwood has had to make a ton of big saves for his team. Then we slide over to this one here, the gold save above expected. We'll go to the good ones for now. So obviously you're going to see a lot of similar names to the expected goals against, but this is where it gets interesting here. Shesterkin. So the Rangers are already struggling a bit here, guys. to score goals. And then their defense overall right now, Shesterkin with 8.9 goals saved above expected. So very impressive for a guy with 6 games played. Spencer Knight, 8.7 goals saved above expected. Jet Greaves, probably been a big shocker for a lot of people with the Columbus Blue Jackets for how well he's been playing, keeping the Blue Jackets in a lot of games. Connor Hellebuck, 6.8 goals saved above expected. Thatcher Demko, Jakub Dobish has been great for the Montreal Canadiens. And there's a huge goalie controversy right now in Montreal. And you guys know I'm a fan of the team, but it definitely bothers me that people can't be happy right now that they have another goalie playing well. It's you have to crap all over the other goalie because one player is playing well, because Dobish is definitely playing better. Wedgwood, Saros, and Alex Lyon. So kind of interesting that here Lyon is 4.5 on this list. But once again, you go to this list and he's at the very top. So it tells you a lot and make a little bit of a difference there. So here are the goaltenders that actually are under achieving as it currently stands. Dustin Wolf, Linus Ullmark, Samuel Montembeault, Levi Merlainen, Peter Mrazek, Joey Decord, Askarov, Sorokin, Kemper, and Casey DeSmith. The two big ones obviously being Dustin Wolf at minus 7.9, Linus Ullmark at minus 7.2. So guys, the goals saved above expected. So obviously when there's a plus, right, we know that that's a save that most people wouldn't have made. When there's a minus, these are how many goals these guys have let in that the average goalie should not have let in, right? So seeing a minus 7.2 for a guy like Ullmark, a minus 7.9 for a guy like Dustin Wolf, and then Samuel Montembeault with 3.6, Merlainen 3.6, Mrazek and Decord. So those guys are certainly struggling. And then looking at the guys, of course, playing really well. We just talked about that. We didn't mention these guys here, which is kind of interesting. The expected goals against, this is in a bad way, really, with the Primo, Mrazek, Grubauer, Casey Smith, Eric Comrie, Merlainen. Percentage of goals saved above average, going to be kind of similar statistics here with Shesterkin, Greaves, Dobish, Rittich, Spencer Knight. The opposite here, very similar group of guys that are struggling: Merlainen, Primo, DeSmith, Ullmark, Mrazek, and Wolf. So that stuff is always interesting in looking at. So guys, we're using Money Puck here. There's all kinds of different stats and different websites that you can look at. We're going to use Money Puck here today for some of this stuff here. So I do like looking at 5-on-5 for a lot of this stuff, because 5-on-5, you kind of negate the power plays, because specialty teams are hard to measure. Some games you're going to get more power plays than not. Some games you're going to get more penalties, you're going to get more power plays, but you want to know how a certain team is performing 5-on-5. So right now, as far as expected goals percentage, you've got the Carolina Hurricanes, the Washington Capitals, the Colorado Avalanche, the Utah Mammoth, and the New York Rangers. And so if I'm looking at this, guys, and you're trying to analyze what you're seeing here, Carolina, it makes sense. They've only lost one game. Washington, they've looked great. Colorado, it looks great. Utah, well, you might think they want to probably find their offense a bit more consistently. But the New York Rangers is the biggest worry and the biggest question mark, because if they are the number 5 in expected goals percentage, but they're not scoring goals right now, that means that their players just simply aren't finishing, because it's been a while now. There's sometimes you can look at it here, guys, and you can say, okay, this team, they're creating chances. Their expected goal numbers were high in their previous game. We have to expect more out of them in their next outing. But sometimes a team that is creating a ton of chances but can't finish, their goal scorers are in a funk. Their goal scorers aren't playing well. Their goal scorers aren't able to finish off some chances, which is not good for them whatsoever. So overall, I think that this New York Rangers team needs to improve their goal scoring touch, because if you look at these numbers for the expected goals percentage, they should be up there quite a bit. And so let's look at the expected goals for, and this is where it really blows your mind. The New York Rangers, according to moneypuck.com, 5-on-5, 2025, 2026 regular season so far. This New York Rangers team, albeit they've played 8 games, so that should make a big difference here. But the New York Rangers are the top, they're probably top 5 still. The Washington Capitals, Carolina Hurricanes, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Colorado Avalanche. One thing to note, the Chicago Blackhawks are right up there. If they can get a good defensive effort in their games, guys, their offense is showing up. Frank Nazar is playing well. Donato's playing well. Of course, you got Bedard, who looks like a whole new player this season. It seems like this team is really playing a lot different this year. So looking forward to seeing what they're able to do. Florida Panthers, Montreal Canadiens, Utah Mammoth, and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, let's go from the other end of things. The worst teams expected goals for: San Jose, Winnipeg, Dallas, Philadelphia, and Seattle. What's up, Carm? Hey, Carm, thanks for being here, man. Got to get you back on with me. People were dapping you up for your bankroll builder play, -1.5 with the Capitals. Good play by you, Carm. They absolutely dominated. And a card that was full of landmines, as you say, Carm, with the underdogs. You cashed that ticket pretty easy. So hats off to you. But this is kind of interesting here, guys, because Winnipeg, great team, and usually a good team that's known for good starts. They're second last as far as expected goals for. Dallas, we got a guy here saying Dallas looking so terrible tonight. Maybe Dallas is a team that relies on having so much talent, but they're really not creating a ton of chances so far this season. They're third worst in expected goals for on the season, which is very interesting. Philadelphia, Seattle, New York, who else? Columbus, Vancouver, New Jersey, and the LA Kings. So that stuff is always really interesting to look at. Let's look at, here we go, the expected goal differential. Now, this stuff is always interesting to look at. Got to look at it from the other way. So you've got San Jose, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Boston, Chicago, Minnesota, New York Islanders, Tampa Bay Lightning, Seattle Kraken, and Montreal Canadiens. So, guys, when I look at this, and you got to try and pick your spots here, but when I look at some of these charts, right, you're trying to find out which teams that aren't playing well and which teams are maybe playing well but deserve better. And I think the biggest one to circle there is the New York Rangers, because they are creating a ton of chances, but they're just not able to finish them right now. So for the time being, you want to look towards fading this team until you see them have an offensive outburst, until you see that dam get bursted. Right now, you're not seeing the floodgates open up for the New York Rangers, but really bright signs for a team like the Utah Mammoth creating offense there, for the St. Louis Blues, I would say, and the Washington Capitals. And I think this Carolina Hurricanes team is going to be a lot more of an offensive team this season. Looking at expected goals against, the goals difference above expected, I'll tell you, this Vancouver, Chicago, this Vancouver team, to me, is a team that you want to look towards fading. Like tonight, they got absolutely blown out of the water by a Pittsburgh team, and not a lot of us are fans of the Pittsburgh Penguins, all right? I had the Pittsburgh Penguins for a small 2% play, and, this Vancouver team just kind of got walked all around the ice. Their defense didn't look very good, and they're giving up a ton of chances. So in the expected goal differential, the Vancouver Canucks are third worst at -4, second worst Winnipeg, and the first or the last team, I should say, is the San Jose Sharks. So that stuff is always interesting to look at here, guys. And I just think that you look at some of these teams and you got to try and find a way to make money on them. But you also want to figure out, okay, this team is not performing at a high level right now. Is it because they're not playing well, or is it because they're just not getting the puck luck? But I think that people use analytics wrong sometimes. You look at the analytics and you say, okay, I lost my bet, but this team, had such high XG. Like I had my over on Saturday as a 5% play in Tampa. I've never seen a team have 6.9 expected goals. They scored 2. It just means that this team does not have the finishing ability right now to get the job done. So they might be creating chances, but they simply don't have the ability right now to convert on those chances. That's really the biggest difference. So I would say, guys, you can use expected goals more so to fade teams than to back teams, is what I would look at when you're talking about expected goals. Teams that are starting to fade as far as their expected goals against, and teams that really right now are giving up a ton of chances and it's not resulting on the score sheet. I'm more interested in fading than teams that are creating chances. I'm not as interested in backing, because there's a big difference in a team actually scoring those goals and then the XG numbers saying they actually did. And I know Carm and I talk about the XG numbers quite a bit together as well. And Carm, if you're still in the chat, we both know, like, sometimes a team can be producing an XG wise so well, and they're not creating chances. And I think a good team example of that would be like the Leafs in the playoffs. They're creating chances, but they're not scoring the dirty goals and stuff like that. So the XG is good, I think, to help build our case for a play, but it's definitely not the reason to make it. I would much prefer to fade a team because of poor XG and XGA than actually look towards to bet on them. So we'll see. Tomorrow's games, as mentioned here, guys: Minnesota, New Jersey, Detroit, Buffalo, and Montreal and Calgary. Looking forward to all of those matchups. We got minus 137 on the New Jersey Devils. We've got minus 113 near Pick'em there: Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal, and Calgary. Now, Montreal only lost 1 game on their homestand. A couple of those games going to overtime, but Cole Caulfield getting it done in overtime in both of those games. And of course, they had that Monday game against Buffalo. And then on Wednesday, they're traveling to Calgary. So I'm very interested to see how this Canadiens team performs on the road versus how they performed at home. One thing I've mentioned for them, even though they do have a lot of experienced players and guys that have been in the league for a little while, they're still a young team. They're still a very, very young team. And so it's going to be interesting to see how their defense fares when they go on the road, how they line up when they don't get the last change, because that is something I worry a little bit about them. Now, you look at this Calgary Flames team, it's not been good for them, guys. I mean, there's no denying it. I mean, we talked about looking to find a way to fade teams here. The Flames beat the Oilers in a shootout, their first game of the season. They lost 5-1 to the Canucks, 4-2 to the Blues, 4-2 to the Golden Knights, 3-1 to the Mammoth, 6-1 to the Knights, and 2-1 to the Jets. Perlo says Calgary spot, but ... it's Calgary. That's exactly how I feel, Perlo. That's exactly how I feel about this one. It does, to me, even as a Montreal Canadiens fan, feel a bit like a Calgary Flames spot. I'm curious to see what ends up happening here. Shout out to Timothy. Thank you very much. Any donations go towards a charity. WagerTalk has a couple charities they donate. So anything you guys drop do go towards charity. So appreciate that very, very much. Love the channel and hope one day to join you on the show. Still an aspiring handicapper. Timothy, would love to have you sometime. We'll have to figure that out. 100% we'll make it happen. But as Perlo mentioned, it's a Calgary spot, but it is Calgary. And, the interesting thing here is that this Flames team has scored 1 goal in 3 straight games. Back to back to back, they had just 1 goal here, guys. 1 goal. I'm curious to see if it ends up being Montembeault or if it ends up being Dobish. I talked about it earlier in the show that there's kind of a bit of a controversy right now, Dobish or Montembeault, who should be the starter. Look, as a Canadiens fan, I just read you the numbers and talked about the goaltenders that are performing well and not performing well. Dobish is on the good side of things. Montembeault is on the bad side of things. Curious to see if they give this game, because I think it's a back-to-back, Flames and then the Oilers for the Canadiens. So it's kind of a tough West Coast road trip. I think they may give this game to Montembeault and then the Thursday game against the Oilers to Dobish, but we'll find out what that ends up being. Part of me ends up thinking that this game could have some goals in it, just because this is a Flames team that I think has just relied for so long on goaltending. It's just relied so long on goaltending here, guys. And when I looked at those numbers for, the expected goals against and the goals saved above average, like, this is a Calgary Flames team. If you look at, their goaltender situation, that they have just been relying on goaltending for so long, I think over even just the last couple of years. And then now you got a young stud goaltender that could have won the Calder Trophy potentially last year. But now he has a 1-5 record, a 3.91 goals against average, and he has the worst goals saved above expected in the entire National Hockey League at minus 7.8. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and people were talking about the fact that you do not want to rush a goaltender into the league. And don't get me wrong, I think Dustin Wolf is more than ready to be a part of the league, but maybe he was rushed a little bit. Perlo says Flames first period, maybe. I think if you like the Flames, that's probably the side that you would look at. The Montreal Canadiens, of course, are still without Caden Gooley, and Dobson's playing a hell of a lot better. You've got Struble and Jack-Eye that are the two, kind of the 6 and 7, but now they're both going to be slotted in. Del Gaizo is making the trip with the Canadiens, so maybe a little bit of a defensive problem. But I'm curious to see how this bottom 6 is going to match up. Again, this is a game where the Montreal Canadiens won't have the last change. So part of me does think we could see some goals in this one. But at the same time, it's also going to be a game where Montembeault, if he is the guy, is going to want to have his best performance of the season so far, because nobody's feeling good about him. And if Dustin Wolf does end up being the starter, like I just said, minus 7.8 goals saved above average, above expected, he's not playing very well either. So as much as you'd think this could be a spot for the Flames to get some goals on the board, part of me thinks they get out of their funk by playing a shutdown game. And a lot of times I used to look towards the first game of a road trip. The emphasis from a coaching staff is all towards the unders and towards defensive performances. I think Marty St. Louis is going to want his team playing a solid brand of defense. So we'll see how that goes. Sabres 4-1-1 to first period under, and Red Wings 4-2 to the first period under. Wow, great stuff there from Carm. Appreciate that. Really good information there on that one, as we talked about in the Detroit and Buffalo game, minus 113 the price there, and some spots have minus 120 as high as for the Buffalo Sabres. Total 6.5 though, so if you can get a good price on that first period under, maybe you see defense early, and maybe we see the game go under overall. I'll tell you what though, Carm, I mean, this Red Wings team, I faded them the other day. Against who did I fade them against? Oh no, I looked at fading them against the Oilers, but I never ended up doing it. But I'll say this, they're rested coming into this game. They haven't played since Sunday. But one would argue that this is kind of a spot here where the Red Wings are feeling pretty good about themselves, Carm. And you got to think, I mean, this Red Wings team has only lost one game all season, and that game was against the Montreal Canadiens. They beat the Leafs back-to-back games. They beat the Florida Panthers. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. But here's the thing here, guys. The Florida Panthers haven't been playing good hockey this season. The Tampa Bay Lightning are in last place in the Atlantic Division. They haven't really been playing good hockey either. Then, of course, on Sunday, they go ahead and win 4-2. This team that's been struggling to make the postseason the last several years, maybe they're off to a really good start. Seems like the goaltending issue has been worked out thus far. Yeah, they are playing well. My early lean, though, here, guys, is Buffalo. My early lean here is Buffalo in this one. I tell you guys every night, there's certain lines that stick out, certain numbers that stick out to me that make me want to play a certain side. Today, that spot was the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we cashed the ticket on the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Vancouver Canucks. It was fishy. It was a weird number. The Pittsburgh Penguins first game off a road trip. Carm, your friend Mo was in town actually in Pittsburgh. Tell your friend Mo to stay on my side because the Pittsburgh Penguins got the job done. I think it's a very similar number here with this one. Buffalo, minus 120 at DraftKings, minus 115 at Caesars. This is a spot where I do think Buffalo can catch them off guard. And Timothy says the lines do tell a lot. Look, we want to trust our handicapping. We want to trust our hockey knowledge. But, the only thing is I will say is I just talked about the Alex Lyon numbers. They've been relying a hell of a lot on their goaltending, and their goaltending has had to do a lot for them. So hopefully they can do a lot better defensively and, help Alex Lyon out a little bit. But I am going to say Buffalo would be my lean in that one. Minnesota and New Jersey. This is kind of an interesting spot here, guys, because I pretty much always look towards unders when we're talking about the Minnesota Wild. This is a scenario where I think you might see an over in a Minnesota Wild game. You might see an over in a Minnesota Wild game. This road trip for them, they lost against the Stars. They lost against the Capitals. They lost against the Flyers. And then they go ahead and put a 3-1 performance up against the New York Rangers. There's not much travel here in this one, of course, playing at MSG and then playing at the Prudential Center against the Devils. The Devils are going to be second half of a back-to-back. We could see some goals in this one here. And I do lean towards the Wild side. The Wild are a team that I usually like to bet when they're at home because I love how they play at home when they get that last change. But the under style of play has had them hurting their offense a bit. They scored just 1 goal against the Flyers, 1 goal against the Capitals, 2 goals against the Stars. And when they got the lead against the Rangers, they played real well. So I do lean towards the Wild side in this one. And look, guys, I'll be the first one to tell you, I faded the Devils tonight. But don't let people tell you that early in the season, second half of back-to-backs do not matter, because they do. Second half of back-to-backs can matter. And specifically, they matter, I think, when you're talking about a team coming off a win. We had Chris Otto on the show talking with us about first period plays, first period totals, first period plays. And with those first period plays, he talked a lot about team second half of back-to-back. If the team that's playing second half of back-to-back is coming off a win, then you bet the other team the first period money line. And this is the last game of the road trip for the Minnesota Wild. And it's not like it's the last game of their road trip and it's been a really good road trip for them. It has not been a really good road trip for them. This game is going to mean something to them. $20 wins, 7 losses, 13 pushes at home last year for the Sabres. First period money line. Carm, that's crazy for the Sabres, honestly, to look at. Yeah, Carm, I just saw that as well. Nico Dawes confirmed as the starter for the Devils tomorrow. So, obviously not the top guy for them. So that could make a difference. Do you feel the Devils left a little bit out there tonight? They had to have put it out to get that result. Yeah, I mean, I think that as much as I make fun of the Maple Leafs, I think that teams love playing against Toronto, and they love playing in Toronto. Teams want to go against them. Teams want to play well against the Maple Leafs. So when you look at a game like that, 5-2 result, and I'm looking it up right now because I think all the good guys played very well. Yeah, so Hughes got a hat trick. Bratt gets 3 assists. Brett Pesce, Cody Glass, Luke Hughes played pretty well. Timo Meier played well. Simone Nemec played well. So this is a Devils team that when you want to talk about the very happy and very fat and sassy spot the next day, a spot play that you think you could go ahead and look at fading, you got to think this is a time you could look at fading them the next day. Now, I would be very impressed if we see back-to-back good efforts out of the Devils, but you're going to have a Wild team that should be really motivated. Perlo says, looking at the draw in that one, I'm seeing plus 330 at DraftKings. Could be interesting there. First period, guys, is plus 110 with the Minnesota Wild here. First period over is minus 120. So it is a very interesting spot here. Look, wouldn't shock me to see goals. Wouldn't shock me to see the Minnesota Wild get the job done. But it's a very interesting slate. You know, one thing I'm going to tell you guys before we sign off is that for me, over the last couple of years at WagerTalk, I've been able to have success on these smaller slates. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. The big slates come 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You need to be able to pick up some winners on those small slates. Especially for me, not having a great night on a Tuesday, you want to be able to pick up some units again on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday or a Sunday. You know, when everybody in the world is betting on the NFL on Sunday, and you usually bet hockey throughout the week, but you decide not to bet on hockey on Sunday or research the board, you might have just left a few winners on the table because you didn't want to do your hockey work that day, right? So tomorrow there's 3 games in the NHL. I'm going to get to work, look at the rest of this, the numbers here, the matchups, all that good stuff. But we're going to find some winners for tomorrow, and I'm super excited. I'll tell you what, guys, we're on a good prop run in the NHL, you know, cashing McDavid to score a goal. We cashed a client same game parlay, which was really exciting. And we also got the job done with some free plays as well, given out on the show with the Pittsburgh Penguins money line. So not all bad, but the Maple Leafs don't do a great job with us. Sabres have a back-to-back with Leafs coming up and are starting Colton Ellis in the second game. Carm, that guy's actually sort of a local boy from my area, sort of, we'll call it. But hoping he does well for your Sabres. So tell the Sabres to play well defensively in front of him. All right, guys. Before we head out of here, before we call it a show, as always, I'll mention it. Coupon code right here. You guys can see NHL 25, 25% off a 30-day NHL pass at wt.buzz/am. Guys, if you want to join my NHL and you're interested in the long haul, but you don't want to look towards a full season package yet, this is the best pass we can do for you. NHL 25, 25% off 30-day NHL pass at wt.buzz/am. And for those of you guys that are watching live, I appreciate it. But those of you that are watching afterwards as well, whether you're watching overnight, whether you're watching on your drive to work the next morning, or hopefully listening, not watching while you're driving, I appreciate all of you guys. And all of my best bets, my favorite plays are at WagerTalk.com. And I'll tell you, you guys can hold me accountable. We got a couple people already that were doing that today. When we're off a losing night, I'm going to be here 10 p.m. Eastern. When I'm off a winning night, I'm going to be here at 10 p.m. Eastern. So you guys can sweat the plays out with me, and we can root them on together as well. So appreciate it. Shout out to all of you guys for being here. Appreciate all of you. Perlo, Anthony, Sens fan, Timothy, Carm, appreciate you, man. And we'll see you tomorrow on Puck Time. All of you guys, Steve, thanks for joining me, guys. We'll see you next time. Same time, same place, right here on the Pre-Scout.